Yes guys, so today we're going to be looking at 4 factors to consider when choosing the right LaVivid hair system for you. So this video is sponsored by LaVividHair.com. If you would like to purchase a LaVivid system after watching this video, please don't forget to use my coupon code ADAM15, gets you 15% off. That's about £50 in real terms on a hair system, so it's well worth considering. I think that translates to about $70 American. So let's go onto their website and let's go through these 4 factors. So as you can see, this is LaVividHair.com, their website. Now, the first thing that you want to be thinking about is base. Base is really, really important when it comes to hair systems because a base is the very foundation of a hair system, and depending on what base you actually wear, it can dictate the level of comfort, the level of durability, the level of density. So there's a lot of different things to consider. So a very popular one, I'm going to go through the 2 most popular ones first and then go through a few less common ones, but ones that people still do invest in. So lace-based systems, these are probably the most popular ones. They give a very, very natural appearance, especially French and Swiss laces. Those are the only 2 I'd really consider, to be perfectly honest with you guys. French lace or Swiss lace. All of the other ones that you may come across, Australian lace, German lace, they're not quite as consistently well produced as the French and Swiss laces. So I find just French and Swiss are the most dependable, they're the most widely produced, and you know what you're getting. So in terms of lace base, French and Swiss, so we've got a Swiss lace here, and we have a French lace, which is the one that I'm wearing here. So the French lace is called Thor, and the Swiss lace is called Helios. I've used both. I really like both. Important to consider with the lace that because the French lace base is slightly thicker, you can get more density with it, and that's really, really important to consider. So if you're a guy in your like 20s or your 30s, you might be looking for, you know, a density typical of someone of that age, and you're more likely to get that with a French lace, in my personal opinion. A Swiss lace, I believe, let's have a look, but I believe it goes up to 95% or 90%. Because the base is thinner, it just can't hold as many hairs. It goes up to a 90%. That's still pretty good for someone in their 20s or 30s, but it is slightly lighter. So if you're looking for something denser, Swiss lace probably isn't for you right now. The French lace, so the Thor, would probably be more suitable. As I said, it's what I'm wearing right now. I'm a 34-year-old male. I find it matches my hair density comparable to my age actually really quite well. And you can just choose from a multitude of colours, which is what you want really if you don't have black or dark brown hair. So let's move on to the next base type, which is ultra thin skins. So these are basically polyurethane bases made of a sort of plastic, I suppose. Now these are also becoming very, very popular within the hair system community, and they're pretty good as well. You know, I've used a lot of skin bases over my time, and I will use a lot more skin bases in the future. I find them super comfortable. I find you can get a decent density out of them as well, especially if you're going to the slightly thicker polyurethanes or ultra thin skins, as they're called. You can get super, super thin ones as well. So you can go down to, as you can see here, 0.02 to 0.03 millimeters. That's wafer thin. Those kind of ones, they don't last as long as well. This is an important thing to consider with skin bases or polyurethane bases, is the thinner the base you go, the less time you'll get out of it, because they are just more delicate by nature. They're just more delicate. They're easier to sort of come apart. You know, hairs do fall out quicker. So if you're looking for a bit more durability with your hair system, you'll want a thicker base. So you're going to be wanting to look at, for instance, a 0.04 to 0.06. So this is the Louis see-through. There's also the Koyas. This one here is 0.08 millimeters, which I actually wore. If you've been following my content, I actually wore that before this one. So if you watch, you know, maybe 6, 7, 8 videos back, you'll see me wearing the Koyas. It is thicker in terms of the hair density, and it's more durable as well because the base itself is thicker. So it holds hair much better, and it can hold hair longer than the thinner skin bases. And also you can, again, with the skins, you can choose, you've got a multitude of different colors that you can choose from, which is great if you don't have hair that's sort of black or dark brown or anything like that. Now I'm going to go through a few slightly more niche options for anyone who might be interested. So you've got monofilaments as well. These are like classic hair systems. These are a lot more durable than the lace bases and the skin bases. However, there's always a catch. They are not as comfortable. They're not as cozy as the laces or the skins, but they are more durable. That's literally the best way to describe it. I've seen people get a year out of a monofilament. So as long as you're willing to put up with discomfort, a monofilament might be for you. So it's totally personal preference. I have worn one monofilament a couple of years ago and it just didn't agree with me at all. And I haven't got one since because my scalp is quite sensitive and I just found it really itchy basically. So yeah, it wasn't quite for me. Now, LaVivid also do, if you are, for instance, of an African-American background, they do afro systems, which are super, super cool. So you can take your pick from those, which is pretty cool. They also do curly hair systems for if your hair is not straight but curly, like this mannequin here. I think this one looks really cool. And it's called an Adam, which is also super cool. Maybe I should get one. I've never really had curly hair system before, but it's not something I'd say no to. It's definitely not something I'd say no to because I think it just looks, it's very in trend right now, these sort of curly styles, as it were. I was actually watching TV last night and it was Married at First Sight. For anyone in the UK, you will know what that program is. But there's a guy with really sort of naturally curly hair, and I think it looks really, really cool. I'd love to give it a go one day. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Should I get a curly system? What do you think? Let me know. Right, okay, so now we're going to move on to the second factor to consider when getting a LaVivid hair system, which is knots. Now, a lot of you are going to be saying, what's knots? Well, let me explain. So basically, let's go back to the lace. So, for instance, at the front, when a lace base is basically knotted, it usually requires, for it to be realistic, it requires a level of bleaching at the front of the system. Let me just get a picture of this gentleman up here. Is this one better? Yeah, possibly. So you can see here that his hairline looks pretty natural, and that's because the knots at the bottom of the base have been bleached to match his skin tone. So it almost looks like the actual hair itself is coming from his scalp. Now, if you have your hair up, this is 100% what you want to have. So I always recommend, whenever you're looking for a system, that you actually make sure that when you're looking through the feature part of that particular system, look out for bleached knots. So here we go, bleached knots, yes, for front hairline. You don't need it throughout the system because people aren't going to be checking your scalp. They're not going to be inspecting your scalp and pulling your hair apart midway up your head, up the system, but it will be apparent at the front. I've spoken about this before. My first couple of systems didn't have bleached knots and it was pretty obvious. Just having some water. It's pretty obvious. And when I first got bleached knots, it was night and day, and I was like, wow, okay, I've really been missing a trick here. So really important to consider that, bleached knots. With skin systems, you cannot get bleached knots as it stands, and that's because the hair itself is injected into the skin or polyurethane base, so they can't actually bleach those knots. However, you can still have your hair up with a skin system. It just doesn't look quite as realistic as when you have bleached knots with a lace system. I know we're using some very complicated words here, guys, but maybe watch this a couple of times and it will start to make sense. That's why I've actually got it on the screen as well, so I can show you guys in person or in real life, as it were. So in summary, with a lace base, if you have your hair up, always look to get bleached knots, and you can always check it in the extra information or the feature section of that particular part of the website. So bleached knots, yes, for front hairline. However, with the skin bases, I had a brain fart moment there. With the skin bases like this one, knots are just not bleached because there's no knots. It's just injected into the base, but it still looks pretty good. You can still have your hair up, so don't let that deter you. Now, a third factor to consider here is hair quality and type. So with LaVivid, they use Indian Remy hair with their systems. Now, Indian Remy hair, or Remy hair, is basically the gold standard. It's the gold standard. It's the highest quality of human hair, so you know you're getting top stuff. Okay? Now, it's always virgin, and the cuticle is always intact, which means the hair always goes one way. So it looks natural, it lands easily, okay? So Remy hair is a really important one, and LaVivid do Remy hair on pretty much all of their systems, at least all of the ones that I've seen. It is Remy hair. Let me check the skin base. Where's my skin base? Just to double check they do it with skin as well. Yes, they do. Okay, so Indian Remy human hair. Now you might see the word Indian human hair and think, oh, well, that wouldn't match my hair because I'm Caucasian, I'm from Europe or whatever. It really doesn't matter. The hair quality is so good that it actually doesn't matter. And remember that it is effectively dyed to your specific hair color, and it will feel like your hair. Like, this feels like my hair. It might be Indian hair, but it feels like mine. It's not harsh, it's not coarse, it's good quality, okay? Now, if you go on another website and you might see Indian hair, or you might see Russian hair or whatever, I'm here to tell you that, or Chinese hair, I'm here to tell you that it's not the same quality. And you'll notice that after probably a couple of weeks wearing it, that it dries out, it becomes coarse, it becomes static. So that's really worth considering. It's very hard to come by as well, European hair. These days, European hair is very hard to come by and it's very expensive. But in my experience of wearing for 5 years, I don't really notice a difference between Indian Remy human hair and European level hair. There's really not much in it at all. So definitely always worth looking out for that. Remy hair, the gold standard. And factor 4 to consider is, of course, price. Now, when we're getting our first system, or we just get systems ongoingly, we have to budget. We have to have, our finances in mind, because it's an ongoing commitment. It's not like you pay once and boom, you never have to pay again. This is an ongoing commitment for however long you want to wear hair systems. It's also important to consider accessories and budgeting for that as well. Now, my experience, I will actually do a more full video on pricing on LaVivid's website, just to give you a much more detailed insight of, that their pricing on certain hair systems and stuff. But what I will say is, with LaVivid, their systems fall between the sort of $200 mark to about $300 to $400 mark. If you want to go for something like a wig or something like that, they are more expensive. That's more targeted towards alopecia, and it's more long lasting. But if we're looking at lace bases and we're looking at skin bases, you're looking from anywhere between $200 to $400. So make sure that you just sort of factor that into your budget. It's pretty much within industry lines. So yeah, it's pretty price competitive in my experience compared to other suppliers, but you get a much better quality of hair, you get a much better quality of customer service, you get much quicker shipping, which I'm also going to discuss more in depth in the video where we talk more in detail about pricing. So there you have it, guys. There's 4 really important factors to consider when you're getting a LaVivid hair system, or any hair system really. Is there anything that you've found as well to be a really, really important consideration when getting a hair system? Let me know in the comments box below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. My next target is 3,000 subscribers. If you like this video and you found it helpful, please do give it a thumbs up. It helps other people find it on YouTube. I'll speak to you very soon, guys. Take care.